Okay, next question says, are there intimate details in our lives we should wait to tell someone until marriage? Things like past and present sin struggles or past trauma. When should we tell the person that we are dating these things? I don't, on the front end, short answer, I don't think that you wait until marriage. I understand the idea and the thought process behind it, and I'm not coming down on you, but what you don't want to have happen is it's post I do, and your significant other either find out because you told them, or they discover, which would definitely be worst case scenario, on their own, something that would have changed if they would have said I do at the point that they did. They may have still would have said I do, but you robbed them of a choice that should have been there by withholding that. There's a couple different approaches to this in premarital counseling. I think it is absolutely absurd and foolish to start premarital counseling before you're engaged. I do. I think you're eliminating an option and a possibility for God to tell you not this relationship or not now. But here's what I do mean as far as telling people things. There's a pre-relationship, there's a during, and there's a during relationship component to this. Things that are pre-relationship, there's got to be a moment with another, and this is usually done in premarital counseling, that a conversation gets to happen about your physical and sexual past. Your significant other deserves that. Y'all are about to become one, and you deserve that with their past. And there's a couple different methodologies that take that approach. And when I'm discussing this, I'm talking pre-relationship with current significant other. If y'all began dating on January 1, 1995, then everything up until when y'all were dating, that would be what this is discussing. Anything that happens during the course of the relationship, though, if you're disloyal, if you cheat, you got to fess that up like immediately. But other sin struggles, and I don't know why I did this, but past, present sin struggles, something that was an issue maybe in the run up to the relationship, something that was an issue throughout the relationship that perhaps you had hidden from them or you had lied about explicitly, or that, and both those being forms of lying, or something that you were really hopeful that they would not find out. So if you're disloyal, own that in the moment. You cheat on them, you need to own that and fess that up. But now we're talking other sins that maybe they're unaware of that occur at the beginning of the relationship, right before, at the beginning, and throughout the relationship. They need to know those things before the I do. And some premarital counseling sessions are going to say, fiance girl, ask fiance guy any question you have about his sexual past, and he's going to answer that. And he gets the same chance with her, and I understand the thought process behind that, and I get that. But he may not know to ask a certain question with something she's been dealing with throughout, off and on, their relationship, and she may not know what to ask because they're good at hiding things. They do not deserve being post I do and discovering those things or finding out those things. And congrats, and my I applaud people that have fessed up on their own without it being discovered. But if you have been struggling with something throughout the relationship, shortly before the relationship, you're now engaged, you owe it to them to tell them what that is. You owe it to them to disclose to them the frequency of the occurrence. You don't have to give them, it happened 17 times in the month of March. No, but like, this is monthly, this is weekly, this is daily, this is hourly, this is quarterly, this is every time I drive by the Red River on I-45 coming out of Wichita Falls, like whatever the frequency is. But you also need to tell them, and you need to find this answer out, who else knows and who you are working with to discover and find freedom in this sin struggle and in this issue, whatever this may be. You can't do this alone, or else you wouldn't be having to discuss this with them, or needing to discuss this with them. I'm telling you right now, you don't want to go through an engagement hiding a sin issue. Get into marriage. Your spouse feel like there is not that they are thankful that they are not having to walk through this as a couple, and then later learn through their own discovery or your own admission that it's been there all along. They were just oblivious to it. Rather, you want to find somebody you can vomit this stuff up to. Get humble. Get some coaching and some guidance through this. And then when you confess to them, when you share with them, you can tell them these things. Hey, here's what I'm doing. I'm meeting with this person weekly, twice a month, once a month, whatever. Here's the parameters that we've built around my life. Here are the loopholes that I would have tried to find. Here's what we've done to prevent those from happening. And it's not so that you can earn trust back. These are tangible things that show I care about getting this right. I think in an engagement, for sure, when it comes to dating, I think it's got to wait until you've got a ring in the pocket and you're ready to say, or to pop a question, or until you're at a place that you know if you were asked, you would say yes, and you would be married within 6 months. Not the theoretical, yeah, I think I would marry them, but like an actual, like, I need them to ask me yesterday. Okay, if you're at that point, that's probably a good time to share that with them as well. Date 1, week 1, month 1, probably not the best time. Don't make them, don't let them, don't put them being your significant other in a position of being your accountability partner, in the position of being the person that guides you and coaches you through finding freedom in Christ from this. And here's why. 1, they don't need that weight and that burden. And 2, their judgment's going to be cloudy. And 3, that's probably because you don't feel like there's somebody else you could go talk to, which would be an indicator that you've been dating in isolation. And you probably need to address that differently then. The other question that they asked, and this is something I want to address explicitly, is they said past trauma. And when should we tell them? I think this for sure. And this is another one of those things that I spoke to or had an exchange with a trained professional counselor with. Here's the thing. Not necessary before engagement. The person you're dating doesn't have a right into that. Y'all get engaged, they then sort of have a right into that. They certainly have one before marriage. It strongly recommended happening before marriage, and here's why. If you have past trauma, there's probably a trigger now. And if they don't know what that trigger is, and I don't know what that trigger is, but they somehow stumble into that trigger innocently, it could be something like a restaurant or a specific town or whatever, and they try to make a nice gesture and they end up tripping into your trigger, you're going to be upset, rightly so, and they're going to be absolutely floored and flabbergasted that they make this great nice gesture or an innocent gesture, do something innocent, and you've completely been triggered and you're acting out of a response to that trigger. Both of you are acting in a reasonable manner given what you know. Satan is having a field day creating conflict. Instead, what I would strongly encourage you is, if you have not, please get in counseling. Please go through counseling. And then one of the things that I would encourage is walk through with your counselor. Maybe like, no, Andy, this is something from like 4 years ago. I went through counseling then. We're engaged now. Okay, maybe call that counselor back. Schedule 2, maybe 3 sessions max. 1 to fill them in on your engagement and make a plan for sharing with your fiance. The second one, to share with your fiance there, I guess a type of a couple session, where the counselor can help mediate and guide them as needed throughout the conversation. I'm a big fan of that one. And I'll be honest, here's why. Jesus loves every aspect of you before anything ever happened in your life. Anything you did or anything that happened to you, he loved you enough to give his life for you. And he has said that marriage is one of the things that he's ordained and put on this earth to reflect that love. So for your significant other to come in and find what for many trauma victims, and this may or may not be you, is a shameful thing. It's not your own fault, but it's something you feel shame about. For a significant other to come in and in a wise and safe and loving environment to learn this thing about you and to hopefully respond in love and to hopefully respond in a greater respect and admiration for your strength, and hopefully respond with the desire to acquire the tools that will best help them love you. That shows the gospel. That shows you the gospel. That lets you be reminded of how much Christ loves you. Because look, at the end of that session, here's what's going to happen. They're either going to look at you differently and down your nose, and this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt hard. But you're going to know it's not them. They are not someone you should be marrying right now. Or, and this is painful now, but this is saving you a very deep pain post I do. Or you're going to get out of that session and their heart's going to be broken because your heart's broken. Their compassion for you and their love for you will increase, and you will be affirmed and reminded that this is somebody that loves me the way that I am, and the way that Christ is shaping and making me. I would strongly recommend guidance from a counselor with the past trauma. I do think as your significant other learns, you want them to get these tools from the counselor, so that in the moments that you are triggered, one, so they learn what triggers to avoid, but two, so that in the moment they can be the hands of Christ that hold your hair back or brush your tears to the side, wipe your tears, whatever it is. They can be the arms of Christ that hold you, and they can be a manifestation of, or a physical reminder of the love of Christ by just sitting there and weeping with you, or by standing outside as we cool down together. Because now that we're one, your triggers are my triggers. I'm now sensitive to those triggers because I'm wanting to protect you from them. So yeah, in all of these situations, I think there's a level of revelation. Things before we were dating, there should be a moment during engagement that they either get to ask questions or I just share. And those are going to be your two popular ones that you find in Christian premarital counseling. Anything that happened or a sin struggle in the run up to our dating and while we were dating, you owe it to them to confess that. Again, not date 1, month 1, but as we're right there approaching engagement or shortly thereafter we're engaged. Anytime you're disloyal, you need to tell them. And then finally, anything with past trauma, I think under the guidance of a counselor, pre-I do, you definitely want to walk through this together. And what a great way for you to illustrate and show trust in them. And what a great way for them to show you that that's the right thing to do. Good. Thank you for the question. It was a good one.